Hello everybody, I'm doing a little bit of sketching this afternoon here in Melbourne. It's actually quite a nice little day. Went out for a stroll before, but I had this scene I wanted to actually do last night, but it was a little bit too late and I thought I'd leave it until today to give it a crack. And basically what I'm going to be doing is a rainy day street scene with a little reflected light in the ground, and we're going to be showing you how to use wet and wet techniques and wet and dry techniques, mainly wet and wet techniques, I guess, to paint most of these reflections, these sort of reflections of the cars on the road, and also just show you how to get in a bit of this light as well. And in the previous session that I ran, I actually used a lot of darker colors in the sky. I wouldn't say like lots of, tons and tons of dark colors, but I did make the sky darker than usual. So I'm going to try that again this time to bring out some of the light on the buildings. I'm going to try to also use a reduced palette. So mainly just my primary colors, more kind of grayish colors, and save those really saturated colors for the sides of the buildings because there's lots of light on them, and I just want to draw some attention to the light and also some of the reflections on the ground. So yeah, firstly, let's go ahead and get in the drawing. I can see there's a bunch of you watching at the moment, so if you're new today or if you're just watching from from another part of the world, let me know below. I'm from Melbourne and basically an artist, a watercolor artist over here. So yeah, leave a comment in the chat. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from, and yeah, what you're up to today, what you hope to get out of today's session. But like I said, I really want to go through and show you how to paint in some wet and wet reflections on the road for these cars, and imply the general feeling of light on the sides of these buildings. So lots of stuff going on here in this scene, but again, I'm really going to try to reduce things down to simple shapes and not put too much pressure on myself to get the details in. Now, this is going to be interesting because I really want to emphasize these reflections, but at the same time, there's not that much foreground. So a bit of a decision I'm thinking to make is to actually just shift the horizon line up, or basically the area where that point in which the sky touches the ground, or I mean you could say like the bottom of the buildings. That's where you'd want to draw that line in. And normally, if you've seen the reference photo, it's all the way down here, down the base, but I'm gonna maybe double that, maybe put it around here just so that I can get some more more of these reflections. And the problem with that though is got to be careful. Don't go too far up, because then these buildings will get just sort of go too much to the top of the scene, and when you don't have enough sky in there as well, it starts to look funny, so it can get a little bit unbalanced. Let's just see how we go. I'm just tentatively putting that line in there, okay, but I'm certainly not using the same horizon line as in the reference. I'm giving it a little bit more room. We've got Robin in the chats from Massachusetts in the States. Midnight here. Oh, a little bit late for you. Hope you can hang around for a little bit, and especially until I start the painting. I'm not going to spend too long with the drawing. Hopefully we'll be done in about an hour. I'm really going to try to race through this one just to show you how simple it is to get in some of these reflections. More of an impression of what's going on. We've also got Cubs Win from Texas. I remember you from last time, Cubs. Good to see you again. And I hope you'll enjoy today's session. I'm trying to pick specific topics or specific scenarios where you might have to paint, I don't know, like reflections or a rainy day or a sunset, light that's near the horizon, light, that kind of thing. Something, different scenarios that you might have to tackle. I think that was difficult for me when I started learning watercolors. All the light that I would paint would all have a similar quality to it. So I think implying different contexts really allows you to make your paintings more diverse and express yourself properly, because if you want to obviously paint different times of the day, different environmental conditions, you're going to need to understand how to paint in that particular way, how to the process in which I use for all these different scenarios. So we've also got Sandy from Hawaii. How you going, Sandy? I do remember you as well from a previous session. Good to see you. So if, yeah, you know, I haven't let anyone know I'm going live today. Again, just a quick session in the afternoon. So we've got about maybe 11, 12 people. Good to see some of you here. Now, let's have a look at these buildings. If we simplify them all down, pretty basic. I mean, we've got almost like three little sets of buildings. So in the middle, if let's draw a line coming up like that. And these are, I'm sure some of you may know where this is. I zoomed into the photo, and apparently this is York in the UK. I've never been there before. I've been to London, a little bit further out. That's about it. So I don't really know where this place is, but I did like that reference of this scene. It was just so much going on with all the light, the buildings, quite complex. But you know, at the end of the day, if you think about it, we've just got boxes, we've got triangles. I always look at these as shapes. Okay, so this is kind of like a, you know, if you think of it as like a building block that kids play with, this is like a longer kind of rectangular building block. Yeah, on top of it, you've got all these, I don't even know what they're called, like spires or whatever these architectural details are. I'm not sure myself, and I'm not really going to bother to detail them that much. Just a bit of vertical kind of shapes going up, pointing up like that. That'll do. You know, I'd actually drawn that line a little bit too far down before, so I moved it up. And there's this kind of triangular shape here. Check this out, little triangular shape here right through the center of the building. And again, this is really not going to be that accurate when compared to that reference photo, but I hope we can just get in a basic indication of all this stuff here. Okay, here's the other kind of another side of this tower. What is this? Is that not a tower, isn't it? It could be a cathedral. It looks like a Gothic building with the, yeah, Gothic style architecture. Definitely. Let's come down like this. If anyone knows, everyone's been here, let me know. And I do see a bunch of you, quite a few of you in the chats. Let me know if you're new here as well. My name is Darren Year. I'm an artist from Melbourne in Victoria, over in Australia. And I run these workshops fairly often these days, and lately I've been getting into these ones that I'm doing today, which are just basically sketching workshops. I'm not, you know, it's more just to get everyone into the mood of painting and reduce that pressure on yourself. You know, one of the big things that's going to help you to learn is if you find a way to make it fun for yourself. If something's fun to learn, you're always going to be able to find the motivation to get started or get going with it. And I find when you're starting out in painting, a lot of beginners have the right mindset. They want to give things a go. They think, you know, what the heck, it's going to work. It might work, might not work. And then they start giving it a try. But after some time, I think people do tend to start comparing themselves to others, start to be a little bit too harsh on their paintings, okay, and forget that they're still in that learning phase. So it's always important to keep an open mind and try to find ways to enjoy the process of it and find little things that you like in your painting or your artwork along the way. You may not do everything as intended. I mean, most of my paintings don't turn out exactly the way I intend. Frustrate me at times, but I can always find something that I've done right, or even if it's completely stuffed, I say, look, I've got through to the end at least, and I got a bit of practice out of it. So, look, I'm just drawing in the basic shape of these buildings here to the right, and as you can see, it's just one big shape. It's really just, if you think about it, it's almost like a wonky rectangle or wonky square, you know, on top, simple stuff like that. I just try to simplify it in my mind in that sense. It's not really that simple at times to draw, but you have to find ways to make it simple in your mind. Okay, all these are just vertical shapes. I'm not really bothering to detail that. You know, all this Gothic architecture, you know, it's so detailed. But if I try to draw all this in, I'm going to really start to frustrate myself. And my style of painting, for those of you familiar with my work, is very loose. Okay, I like to have a bit of artistic freedom to do what I want in this scene, and if it doesn't follow the reference photo exactly, so be it. You know, I just want to imply what's going on. So there's a couple of windows there. What have we got here? There's a window here. I might draw one in here. This is, yeah, we'll see how we go. It's kind of hidden, that window, actually, but it's no big deal. All kinds of stuff here. It's no, you know, as long as you've got these two general blocky shapes, all good to go. Okay, there's some trees here. Look at that. There's a tree in there. It's kind of obscuring part of that building. You have got the sidewalk that kind of comes around all the way to the back like that. And we've now got some cars that we can see. There's one car just all the way out the back. It looks like a van or something like that. And I'm going to simplify that down, just make the top of it a little more dark. Okay, it's all the way in the distance. And then we've got, we've just got the bottom part of it like that. So it's a little bit in the distance. Let's put in another car here. This sort of bluish car like that. You can see the back of it, the wheels there. Okay, so that's a car there. I'm really trying to push that car back further, but we'll see. You know, maybe another one here behind, or in front, essentially, of this one there. Okay, you want to have the vehicles all the way in the back. You want to have them smaller than the ones there in the front, because that's going to imply that they're further away, and it will make sense in your painting. If you know, a lot of times you're doing a lot of these online courses and watercolor courses or tutorials, they don't teach you how to draw to understand perspective. Okay, and I'm just giving you a really quick crash course here in this. But yeah, as a basic guide, everything in the background you do want to make smaller in relation to what's in the front. All right, let's have a look here. You know, that's the windscreen. We've got another part of that car. I just wanted to tidy up that car in the background. It looked a bit funny, so yeah, just wanted to change that around a bit. And you know, you sometimes, you know, this is just a little experiment. I thought maybe I could get a car that's just parked. Could I get a car that's parked here on the side of the road or something like that, showing the side of that car a little bit? Okay, maybe I'll take that out later, but we'll see. It kind of looks like there's a car on the side. See a bit of the side part of the car. Okay, so we can get a bunch of reflections in for these cars. Now, I've completely neglected the left side of the scene, so let's go ahead and draw in the left side of the scene. And by the way, guys, how is the video and how is the audio? Let me know if you can hear and you can see me okay in the scene, if I need to change anything. It seems like everyone's following along okay, but sometimes I do need to adjust the light a bit, because it's either too much light in the paper so you can't see my drawing, or there's too little light. So I've just got a little preview window on my screen, so sometimes I do miss out bits and pieces. But if any of you have questions, let me know also down in the chat. So I would love to hear from you. And this building here to the left, I like this tower. Check this out. Firstly, what I might do is I might just get in a little bit of this other building that's coming in from the side like this. And these buildings are interesting and they're important because they're going to have light on the sides of them. Can you see? Just kind of little bits of light and indications of the sides of those buildings. It's like that. There's a person just walking on the street there, but I'm really going to try and put in the sides of these buildings a bit more, yeah, so we can get that reflection, the reflection of a bit of that light there on the ground. So this building actually doesn't come down all the way there. It comes down like roughly about to the back like that. Ramona says, great here, need coffee also after midnight in Ohio. Yeah, it is a bit of a funny time that I'm streaming at the moment. I wasn't sure if there'd really be anyone watching, but thank you for coming along. I know it's, yeah, midnight for me is bedtime, so yeah, hopefully we can, I can answer some of your questions as well, Ramona. Just pop them in the chats if you need some help. Yeah, it's always a challenge when you're streaming from this side of the world. You know, it's literally opposite side of the world for most people, so yeah, I'm either half asleep during the day, during the night running these workshops, or I'm completely awake like I am now, but there's no one around. So happy to have at least, you know, it looks about 15 or so people here watching. Alrighty, so that's the side of, I don't know what this is. It looks like some kind of, I don't know, it's some kind of building there in the background. I'm not gonna, yeah, I'm not gonna detail that one too much. Let's get in this top part of the tower. Oh, and this one is actually, you know, guys, I've actually stuffed this one up a bit. This should be a little bit higher, this building there, like that. Okay. Don't be afraid to change things around a bit too. But yeah, one of the things I've probably should have done is extended this building out a bit more. It doesn't matter. We're gonna just go with it. All right, we're gonna just go with it. This is like a similar structure to these other two buildings to the right. These two tower sectiony bits. So let's just go combine these, bring this down. It becomes a little bit wider and comes down. It's just becomes the side of the tower. Lots of light there. Yeah, this could be like a cathedral or something like that. I've seen a bunch of these in the UK. It's, you know, there's lots of them around, so it might be in the front. Or whatever it is, I'm not gonna focus too much on it. I've just got the top of it, which is a triangle, you know, triangular like shape. And really trying my best to give myself a fighting chance when I'm painting by marking out areas where I think the light's going to hit. All right. This is another part of the building. You know, whatever it is, it's just like that. Okay. Light's going to hit here. So light's going to hit the right sides of the buildings, and it's going to cast a bit of a shadow to the left side of the buildings. Okay. Yeah, interesting sort of scene. Now, what you can see on the ground as well, in the road, you can see that there are little reflections. There are reflections of the light on the ground, which I'm going to indicate more, and we're going to exaggerate. We've got Ja Austria here. How you doing? Good to see you. I think I remember you from last time. And are you actually from Austria? We've got Sandy Brooks says, video and audio is fine. Unfortunately, I have to watch my iPhone, so can't see as well as I want to. You know, the cool thing, though, is on YouTube, because I do stream on YouTube as well, you can actually zoom into if you've got the YouTube app, you can pinch zoom into my part of the video. Can't speak right now, but yeah, that does help. I don't think you can do that on Facebook though. Ramona says, I did recently read that sketches, the fewer colors used, the better. Do you agree? I think I've been over painting often. Yeah, look, always reducing. If you manage to reduce your palette down to just a few colors, believe me, that is going to just make life a lot easier for you. You know, I definitely used to go with a more vibrant palette, but now I've decided to just simplify things, reduce it down to only a few essential colors. And one, it makes it easier to paint because I don't have to balance all those different colors all the time, and two, it makes my painting look more balanced as well. So I really do suggest that, especially if you're a beginner. But I do see a lot of professional artists even do the same. Like a lot of professional artists just, you know, they actually use the color gray a lot. So because if you think about it, gray is a mixture of every single color. So if you use a variety of grays, you can actually get a huge amount of depth and and interest in your painting. So yeah, you don't always have to just use really gaudy colors in all your scenes. In fact, like I said, steering away from that these days. Right, so look, we've got some cars, we've got some buildings. That's pretty much done. Now, what else do we want? I think we're going to need to put some people in here. Here's someone walking off in the back, okay? There's someone walking into the scene. Let's put someone walking here to the left, okay? And remember, put the heads of these figures on the same point on the horizon line, because essentially I want to imply that this scene is more or less flat. I mean, if you look in the reference photo, it is actually maybe going up a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but as long as the heads of the figures are on or around the horizon line, it's going to make the scene look flat. So I put a lot of emphasis on the drawing, and I talk a lot during this stage, because often I find people don't put enough emphasis on the drawing, and you end up with not a good enough plan. And you always need to have a good blueprint, and that's what the drawing is for, so that when you end up painting, you are not thinking too much. You're just following the plan that you've already put down on paper. You know, see this sidewalk? I've kind of stuffed it a little bit, but that's okay. We want to sort this out here in the planning stage, not later when we are actually painting and we've got a million and one things to think about. If we work it out now, I mean, I can even change this. This doesn't look so... I don't really like this sidewalk. Kind of annoys me a bit, but I think we can just get away with it. Let me just try this one more time. This is bugging me. Maybe I can just do something like... yeah, like this. Yeah. There we are. Basic. Okay. Sort of sidewalk. We're going to need more people maybe up the front here as well. In the back, sorry. Let's get in some more people. There. And, you know, do we want another car here? Do we want another car here? That's the million-dollar question. Probably not. Probably not. I'm just thinking about it. This is going to be a bit much. However, I could put one in here, I think, and it wouldn't look too out of place. So just one over here. I don't have a reference photo for this. I'm just making this up, so it looks a bit dodgy at the moment. Hopefully I can redeem myself later in the painting. Remember, we're just looking at this car as a box on wheels. As a little box on wheels. If we can imply that, we will be okay. Bit of a shadow underneath the car there. That way we can get this nice little reflection. And here, perhaps I'm just trying to design this, but I don't want it to be too... I don't want it to be too all over the place. I want a person maybe here. Or do I? So I'm just guessing at the moment what might look good. You know, walking. This person's just kind of walking onto the street. Okay? You can see there's a leg. And the head would be good if the head's just pointing in the direction that the person's walking as well. Like this. Just kind of walking onto the street. Can you see that? But we've still, of course, got that car in the background, so I'll be able to get that nice reflection of the vehicle, as well as this figure, person walking through the road. This is where things get a bit messy. I mean, I could keep going, really. I could put another one here in the center so that we've got people walking through. But, look, guys, I really think that could be just about enough. I have the tendency to just go a bit overboard with my figures, so I have to consciously stop myself at times and just be like, look, that's enough. That's enough. A few in there, and that's pretty much about it, I think, for the drawing. Maybe a few little, I'm just thinking a few little, what you call it, indications like this of the perspective. All right. And Cubs Wins asking, is there a purpose of using more squiggly lines than straight? This is just the way that I draw. A lot of people ask me this question. I find that it's very difficult to draw a completely straight line all the time. And if I try to go completely straight and I veer off, it just looks a bit more obvious than if I draw it in small parts and go from there. So when I end up using the brush anyway, I just detail it more and try to get it right the first time round. But yeah, often when I'm drawing in pencil, I find that if I'm slightly inaccurate with that line, say I'm drawing that line in a few parts, and then suddenly I think, oh, it's kind of veering off course a bit, I can correct it faster if I draw it in a few little parts like this. It also lends well to my style, that I've got this kind of looser style, so at the end of it, it's not really noticeable. But if you want to draw with straight lines, that's what most people do anyway. So I just a bit weird when it comes to drawing. All right, so we are all good. Now let's get started with the painting. Sandy's asking about YouTube, trying to find me on YouTube. Yeah, basically just go into YouTube and search Watercolor Mentor. Watercolor spelt with an O-U-R at the end. I'm streaming on there as well. You can subscribe to that, and hopefully should notify you if you click the notification button. But yeah, that allows you to pinch and zoom in if you've got the latest version of the YouTube app. It's like a cool little thing I found out recently. So let's get cracking with the painting, and the first step we want to go through, guys, is we want to just paint in some really light colors. We're basically painting in the light, okay? And I like that there's this golden sort of quality of the light here. It's almost like, could be golden hour, I'm not sure, but it might be. Or it might be something that you want to indicate. So I'm just going through, and check this out. I'm just putting in a bit of this golden light on the right-hand side of a bunch of these buildings. Okay, on that building. Of course, you've got these other buildings that have lighter colors on them as well. Okay, and always keep in mind at this stage, I am using about 5 to 10% paint. There's not much paint on there at all. Okay, just so that we can get in a light wash of all these colors. I'm holding the brush at the end as well, and this is a watercolor mop brush. Picks up tons of paint. As you can see, I've painted that building just in a few simple brush strokes. That's why I like using these mop brushes, because if you're aiming for a quick sort of loose style like I am, where you can just pull out that paper and brush and just start almost immediately, a larger brush is really important for that. It just saves time, makes your painting look looser, stops you from overthinking things as well, which is what I am guilty of a lot of the time, believe it or not. So let's put in some more of this golden color. See, I've just put in a bit more saturated golden color. This stuff, which is burnt sienna, a bit of burnt sienna as well. Just dab a little bit of that through, because there is a bit of that quality of burnt sienna, browns in the buildings and stuff like that. Okay, but remember, again, we're just layering. We're putting a very light layer of color over all of this stuff. All right, so let's go in like this. Let's go over the top of all these figures here, the cars over in the back as well. I'm just going to cut around them with the mop brush. The great thing with these watercolor mop brushes is you can just cut around bits and pieces very easily, and at the same time paint large areas, because you've got the smaller tip of this brush, which just makes easy work of some of the detailing. Okay, I mean, if you look at all this stuff here, it's almost just, it's all just almost one color. It's yellow, and I've got some browns mixed in here, because I did just notice now that there are more kind of a brownie, some brownie hues here, okay, on the right-hand side for these buildings. So I'm just picking up a bit of brown. This is darker brown. It's basically just a burnt or raw umber. I can't remember which one it is, okay. just a little bit of that there. You know, down below, you've also got some muted greens for some of these trees. So why not just drop in a little bit of that green and a little bit of yellow. I've got a bit of yellow and dark green that I'm just going to flick in here so that it does its thing. It just, you know, adds a little bit of that green in there like that. Let's have a look. What else do we want to do? So I will also look at, let's have a look. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? We can probably get in a bit of light also on the ground. So some more of this yellowish color, but I'm going to dull it down. I'm going to mix some gray into it. So it's kind of like a grayish yellow, if that makes sense. A grayish kind of yellow. All right. But starting from the back, I'm going to make it lighter, a little bit lighter. Okay. Cut around those cars. Okay. And as we move down the page, I'm going to just mix in more of this gray color. Yeah, a bit more of that gray like this. Here. Here. Cut around. And I always try to find ways to merge colors together, like blend and merge colors together. Okay, see how it's just, I've blended the yellow with this grayish color as I move down the page. And this is going to create a softer transition, and it's going to appear as if the light in the back is just stronger. Okay, but of course we do have some little reflections of these buildings as well, which I will try to quickly get through and imply, like this one there. I'm exaggerating it because it doesn't look like this in the reference photo. Okay, oops, just lost the stream on Facebook. Hang on, I just lost the stream on Facebook, so I'm going to try to reconnect. Oh, here we go again. Jeez. Hang on a moment, guys. Just bear with me. Bear with me. Yeah, this does happen. I don't know why this happens, but sometimes I just lose the stream on. Yeah, sometimes I just lose the stream on Facebook. I think we're back now on Facebook. Let me know how it's going. I can still see there's a bunch of you, about 16 of you on Facebook. I think we lost everyone there for just a second. Cubs Wins asking, do you ever use flat brushes? Yes, we're going to use some flat brushes later. I'll show you how I use them. And to get in these reflections is actually a lot easier to do it. Do I have a wet paper first? I do sometimes, yeah. So technically I have wet the paper here. Okay, technically I've wet the paper. And also at this point, you know, we can just sort of slant the paper downwards like this. As I'm doing, slant the paper downwards, and you can see how, like, a lot of this stuff is, whatchamacallit, is floating down to the bottom of the page. Okay. Now I want to do this pretty quickly, and if I can get a little spray bottle too, which probably answers your next question, Cubs Win. Do I ever wet the paper? Well, I kind of was half answering it, but I will wet this bottom part of the paper because I'm going to come back to it in a moment. All right, it's just my little trick. Wet the bottom of it because I need to get the top of it first. Okay, get the bit of the sky and go from there. So the sky we will get in with some blue. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mix in some some cerulean blue. Okay, guys, some cerulean blue with grey. And why am I doing that? Well, I want to make it look like a more sort of gloomy day out in the background. You know how sometimes you get the sun that's peeking out from the clouds and it seems to be casting this nice, beautiful colour, but at the same time, this sort of warmer colour, but at the same time in the background you can have a different sort of something like that. So I'm just let's just work this out, okay? And hopefully, you know, my aim here is to get in a more darker, slightly darker sky than in the reference photo. And this will enable me to create a bit more contrast for the buildings. But give me 1 second. I think what I will do is also just quickly add in a few little... See, I've forgotten to put in some of these like spires and stuff on the top of that. On the top of that building. So I'm going to just quickly do that. Yeah, so the color I'm using is cerulean blue mixed with a bit of grey, essentially. Because I have lots of greys on my palette. Left over from previous washes. So grey with little splashes of cerulean, okay, to just add to that rainy day look. Okay, but we're still, you know, I want to make it a little bit darker than the buildings. It's the opposite. I'm doing the opposite as per the reference. In the reference, if we look at the sky, it is actually lighter than the buildings. Okay, and when you're sketching, when you're sketching, you always want to try something different, in my opinion, or at least do what you normally do, but faster and without too much, without overthinking things. One thing I really like is the ability to experiment and be able to change things around when you're painting. Okay, and you often don't get the luxury of doing that when you are, you know, working on a larger painting. You know, you're often following the same process, whereas here, I'm doing something different. It may work, it may not work, but I did try it in a previous session. It did sort of work, so I thought, why not try it again here? So this will hopefully, again, bring out the light on the buildings. That's my intention. And yeah, create a bit more contrast, cut around the rest of these buildings. And the buildings, the layer of color on the buildings should have already dried. So there shouldn't really be too much, there shouldn't really be too much in there. Now, what we can do is, because we've already got in the sky wash, I am going to go straight into the buildings. I've got a smaller mop brush, and I'm going to pick up, again, some more color. I'm mixing up some. I've got some ultramarine blue, a bit of perylene red, ultramarine blue, perylene red, and a touch of, more than a touch of, but some yellow ochre. And what am I trying to do here? Well, I'm trying to mix myself up some kind of grayish color, okay, with my 3 primaries. And I can always pick up neutral tint, but something to keep in mind with is you need to develop the skill of being able to mix your own colors and use these colors throughout your entire painting. Okay, this is kind of like a purplish gray color. To me anyway, it looks a bit like a purplish gray color. Now, let's start putting in the shadows on the buildings. Now, we can do this all in one go. We're going to be pretty, we're going to be pretty quick with this. I'm just having a look, checking on Facebook. Is everything going okay on Facebook? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure how you guys, if you can hear and see me okay. Robin says Facebook seemed to stop, then it backed up in the video when it started again. Yeah, I hope you didn't miss out on too much, but yeah, I only just noticed that it had stopped. I don't know why, but it happens sometimes. It's always Facebook. I never have any issues with YouTube, but Facebook just often just kicks me out sometimes during the stream. And Cubs Wins asking, brand of watercolors. So the brand of watercolors, I use a few different brands. Just going to re-wet this bottom section again. Use a few different brands, mainly Daniel Smith. Use Schminker. I use Holbein. As long as you've got some professional grade watercolor paints, even if you've got some decent grade student watercolor paints, you'll be fine. I find a lot of these professional grade watercolor paints anyway to be more similar than dissimilar. Here in Australia, we have a brand called Art Spectrum. I use that as well because this is just, we make it here, it's cheaper, it's very easy to get, and the quality is just as good. So yeah, there's so many out there. Just remember, don't fuss too much over it. As long as it's a reputable brand and, you know, there's some decent reviews out there, just go for it. So I am putting in some of this color, this darker gray color on the left side of these buildings, and, you know, check this out. I'm just trying to get in. Now this is tricky because part of the building has not dried properly, like the top part of the building. So this is gonna be kind of some wet and wet, a lot of wet and wet bits and pieces running through here. But we want to leave the right hand side of that building, okay? Right hand side of that building showing through. The lights on the right hand side of the building is what I'm trying to say. You know, bit of the light there, maybe on the roof, but I'm looking at the reference photo and I'm thinking, where is the light coming from? It's coming from the right-hand side, so I can just kind of imply that general light source. You can see it here as well on the left side of this tower. Okay, simplify this down like that. Coming down further here, this bottom part of the, oops, a bit of paint there, bottom part of this area there, just cutting around the cars again. A lot of this stuff is just wet and wet work that I'm just figuring out along the way. Right. But when you paint wet and wet, you can paint large areas, but you often can struggle with getting sharper details. So you've just got to be mindful of that. You know, for example, here I do notice that there are some shadows on the side of this building, which may have been cast from the tower to the right. So why not I'll just imply that kind of happening there. Okay, don't need too much, something like that. This tower here, I'm just gonna go and do this one. If you have a smaller brush as well, this can help. A smaller round brush, this is when I might switch to something like this to make it easier on myself, because I don't want the paint to spread too much. I still want there to be some kind of structure to this building, yeah? Oops. It's just, again, cutting around this building here in the foreground, and there's going to be some darkness here. Right, bit of darkness here. Oh, I've kind of gone a bit too far. It doesn't matter. Bit of darkness to the left here. Okay, let me just maybe cut like that a bit. You know, I've got a bit of stuff going on here. We'll figure this out too. Oh, I've gone a bit too much. Like that. Okay, stop. Just remember to keep the lights that's showing through on the right hand side of these buildings. Okay, there's another part of the building, like kind of the back part of the building, so there's no light there, it's just like shadow, so I can just paint that bit in like that. Okay, and here in the front as well, there's kind of darkness and things on just behind these figures, and also, you know, you've got some bit of darkness there on that part of the building. Okay, look at that, look at that. Okay, we've got this general indication of the buildings there, and we've got this general indication of the light as well hitting that building. So it's all going pretty all right for me at the moment. Okay, we haven't lost the light. Now this building here to the right, let's do the same thing. I've just still got this same darker color that I'm using, but I might mix in a little bit of brown ochre, just a little bit of tiny bit of brown, and I'll switch to the smaller brush again. Let me check the bottom of the page. It's spray the bottom a little bit. It is not, hasn't dried yet, but it's getting there. Here we go. Mop brush, another mop brush again. Okay. And the mop brush is increasing the light. Okay. Let's go. All right. There we are. Look, all it takes, just a few little brush strokes like this downwards, and we can now imply this building. But of course, I just need to make sure that it's coming forwards a bit better. Like that. Okay, but it's all just one big shape. If I can just get this indication of this larger big shape there, and also mix in that same grey that I was using before, so that it's not all just the same color, right? I've even got in a tiny bit of color, a light on the right side of that chimney there. Can you see that? Put a little bit here as well, a bit of maybe something like that. Okay. Coming down, cutting around these figures. All right. Why have I been keeping the area in the ground wet? Well, this is why. Because we're going to do all of these cars and everything, all the reflections at once. Okay. And I like to hold the painting on a little slant like this, and this is going to encourage the paint to flow down better. And I'll show you how I use a flat brush for this. Much easier. I'll use two brushes, a flat brush and a round brush. The round brush is going to be used on the cars to get in a little bit of color and light. It also helps, I find, to detail a bit. All right, so let's have a look. We have neutral tint. I'm going to go pretty dark. We can just mix up a purple, ultramarine blue, red, and yellow. Right, I do want it a bit more bluish though. Okay, and we've got like the bottoms of the cars here like that. Now there's a little bit of darkness on the base. Can you see that? Just a little bit of darkness on the base of these cars. So I'm just, look at that, I'm just putting in the wheels with a couple of quick brush strokes like this where possible. Okay, and we'll join up the darkness underneath the car like that. Okay, that's going to mark out where they are. Same thing with this figure here, walking across the road, legs. This one here, oh, this one's got too much, put too much paint in there, no problem. Okay, one here in the back like this, here. This is where you really want to just put in some of these darker values. And I will pick up a larger larger flat brush. And let's see if we can do this, guys. I'm picking up 50% paint, 50% water, of about some kind of grayish mix of color. And I am just drying off the brush a little bit. And let's just try this. Okay, one brush stroke coming down the page. Okay, might work, it might not. I think it will be fine though, like this. And then we've got some little basic quick reflections of the cars and the figures here, the reflections in the ground. I often find though I have to redo these at times if the paint, if the paper is too wet. I do think it's slightly too wet at the moment, so you're getting, it's kind of tricky. But see, I'm just quickly just moving that brush down the page quickly. Why am I doing it quickly? So that I can leave in some of that yellow behind some of the reflections before. Okay, there's even some, look at this, the reflections of this building here are kind of also quite dark, so I can just do that, combine that with the car. All right, these downward reflections. I probably should have, if I were to do this again, I probably would have waited for this to dry a bit more, because the front of the scene to dry a little bit more, because the reflections would just have a touch of sharpness to them. But at the moment they do look very, very sort of soft. But you get the job done. Get the job done, that's for sure. What else do we have? We've got this building here in the background. There is some, you know, a little bit of this stuff going on there as well. Look, let's just get some of that reflecting downwards, you know, like that. Okay, we've got some reflections Okay, starts looking okay. I mean, to me anyway, it looks like what I wanted to imply. So once it starts looking okay, that's when you want to stop and yeah, take a look and just have a think for a moment what your next steps are. Let me know how you're going, everyone. This is this is not an easy thing to do. Balancing out these wet and wet effects, it's very, very tricky and requires a lot of trial and error, knowing what's going to happen to the paints, predicting what's going to happen to the paint anyway, as you drop it into this area that's already wet. So now the people, shirts of people, all that kind of stuff, you know, this is where you want to add in some color. Do what you want. I'll put in a bit of kind of purplish color for this figure here, you know, there in the foreground. I'd want to keep things also like pretty light. So there, you know, for the vehicle in front, you know, I'm going to just put in a bit of this grayish, purplish, grayish paint like that. For now, I'll leave the for now I'll just leave the windscreen. Okay. Okay, what do I have? This one here, we can put in a bit of, look, be brave as well. Add in some different colors if you want. And always remember at this point, when you're adding in colors, they're really going to pop out because you have got more dulled down, muted colors previously in the scene. So, you know, there's the head of that figure here. I actually like the fact that it's I've cut around the head before. It looks quite nice. Just want to make the arm look a bit more apparent. Here we go, something like that. Too dark. There, that's probably an arm. There, what's going on here? I don't know what's going on here. Just color this part in like that. We've got the car, we've got this car here as well. Let's just do the same thing. Bit of darkness here and bringing this color down. The left side of the car will have shadows on it like that. Yeah, I probably will redo some of this bottom of the car and that as well. Just looks a bit yeah, it just looks a bit wishy-washy, the wheels and stuff like that, but yeah, looks okay. Bit of blue for this one here in the back, this figure here. You know, you can just leave them the same color as well. That's no big deal. Okay, good. Darken that car, maybe this one here. Here, let's put in a bit of shadow on this car as well, like that. So they sort of look like cars, yeah? They do look like cars to me anyway. Probably not the most accurate looking cars, but they are cars. All right. So we've got color and it's all mixing around. It's all doing its thing in here. This is the stage where I sort of just dry it off or wait for it to dry off and then add in all the little finishing touches here and there. How we're all doing? Let me know in the chats how you're going, if you've got some questions as well, and I'll get back to you. We've got actually quite a lot of people watching on YouTube at the moment, more than usual for this type of time. So yeah, let me know how you're doing, and if you're new to my channel as well, yeah, whereabouts you're watching from, if you have questions. I tend to sometimes go really quick like this, and people are just trying to keep up with my painting. But I just thought I'll stop for a little bit and let this thing dry. Let this thing dry off. I could grab a hairdryer and start drying it down. Do this as well. It's pretty hot these days. We're getting hotter anyway in Melbourne, so normally I don't need to grab the hairdryer, but when I'm painting quickly like this, it does help. I think I will just do a few little touch-ups, bits and pieces, and this is what I'm going to do. We're going to put in some architectural details. I've got myself smaller brushes. Now you can use a little flat brush, you can use a little round brush, you can use a little rigger brush, whatever you want to use, as long as you use a smaller brush, smaller synthetic brush. And this is going to allow me to put in some little details on these like buildings and stuff, because there's actually not as much, there's actually not too many details in here, and I want to imply some of this stuff. And hopefully while it's still kind of wet, I can go in there and just feather in a bit of this stuff. Okay, so I've just picked up a bit of gray from my palette, and you can see up the top here, you know, the top of these buildings, like I said before, there's all these kind of like bits and pieces that I didn't even bother putting in, and I'm going to now try to paint them in these, I don't know what they are, like spires or whatever on the top of the building now, or the tower, sorry, like that. And just a few little brush strokes should hopefully indicate that for you. And this allows me to just detail a bit, imply what's in here. Okay, while the paper is still a touch damp, this is going to also kind of melt in, and it's going to look more subdued. It's not going to look too stuck on. So if possible, I really like to not use the hairdryer. I use it a lot during our scenes, our paintings, our live shows, just to speed things up. But if you can just paint normally like this, it's actually better, because yeah, like I said, you get a more subtle effect, because when the paper's completely dry and you paint on these windows, they're not going to really blend in. Okay, so you get this sort of more stuck on look. Here's some of this, I don't know, again, these architectural details on top of that building, and you can see there, you know, some verticals. The brush I'm using is so important as well, guys. Don't use a big brush for this, or you're going to stuff it. Just imply some of this quick and easy. Okay, like that. You're just drawing, and that's why I always say to people that you really need to practice your drawing on top of watercolors, because painting is just an extension of drawing. Okay, if you can draw, more than likely you can paint. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff here. Look at this building. It's a really old kind of building, and I can just, you know, there's all kinds of stuff. I can just dry brush a bit of, you know, a bit of muck and stuff here. These old Gothic buildings, we have a few in Melbourne as well, and they just take on this kind of weathered type of look as time goes by, and they get more kind of these a brownish tinge to them as well. Okay, this is all just a bit of dry brush technique, but as I go down further, as you see just down the base here, that this part of the painting is still wet, so it's getting a bit of softness as I go into the base. Okay, look at this. I don't even know how to paint this thing, but we're going to just try. Look, just the shape of the, whatchamacallit, you know, thingamo, the front of the building. Is this a cathedral, guys? Do you know where this is? I'm actually not sure. It looks like a cathedral or something like that to me. Part of that building here. There's actually some kind of like, whatchamacallit, a tree, bunch of trees and stuff here as well. I will put in a bit of darker paint there. If you can draw, you can paint is the reverse too. Trouble with drawing. Yeah, I guess with painting, especially if you are, you know, you've started out with acrylics or oils and stuff like that, it's very easy to correct. You can just go over the top of what you've done before. So some people, they can build up painting, but when they go back and they start, yeah, if you want to draw, I find that, yeah, it's just not as, you can't sort of draw as loose unless you hold the pencil down the end using a smaller point, where a brush, you're forced to paint in a loose way. Let's go and let's put in more details. Look at this one here. This needs something. You're just using the brush to detail. Okay, just detail here and there. It's not it's not that much, but you do want to make sure that there are some bits and pieces, and just practice as well. Kind of practice detailing in the brush. You know, I've got this terrible looking brush at the moment. It needs to be replaced, but I can still make do and get in the general outlines, the details, as you can see, of all these, of the buildings. Yeah, of the tower here. You know, it's not perfect, but it does look like something. You know, there's some, what's this stuff here? There's these little, funny little arches or something behind there. I've drawn this building, I painted this building in almost the wrong area. So there's actually another building here in front. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do something like that. It's, they'll make do for the time being. More of this darker paint. You know, look at that. Just build up that detail. Slowly build up that detail. You know, there's some of these little bits on top of that building there. You know, what's happening here? I don't know. There's this building here. There is some little sharper bits underneath that one there. I don't know what's going on. There's like a circular bit of this building, so I can just put that in like that. Another circular sort of bit there. There, you're just finding little details and joining it all up together. Yeah, and hopefully, look at that. It starts to kind of make sense. It's actually pretty dark in behind here. I've not implied that so well, but I can just quickly do something in this section. Quick like that. Add in a bit of paint in that section. Okay, what else do we have to do? Oh yeah, the building here on the right hand side. I'm going to go pick up some more of this darker paint and just drop in a few like this, and this is again just to imply the structure of the building to the right. Okay, because we've lost details. And we just want to bring back a little bit of the windows and stuff like that. Okay, 1 2 3, 1 2 1 2 3, and I'm always being careful not to add too much paint as well in the background. All right, now these wheels and stuff, this is where what I was talking about before. I didn't like how they were there wasn't enough darkness underneath them, but just as a quick little something like that underneath, hopefully that will anchor the cars down to the ground a bit more like that. Okay, I do notice some artists also use whatchamacallit, bit of red paint to show the reflections of the tail lights of the cars as well. We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. But just thinking, what else do we have? Yeah, but I mean, we're almost pretty much done here. Yeah, if you want to, I'll just show you how to do the tail lights just real quick. I'm not an expert with this, but you can drop in a bit of red. Okay, let me just see how that goes. Might or might not work. Red, orange. Orange is probably better with the red, just to make it more vibrant. You can get a bit of this stuff running down like that for the red of the tail lights of the cars, but something like that for that car anyway. Spray it a touch like this. Maybe a bit of white as well. I'm going to pick up some gouache, a little bit of white watercolor gouache. Let's see how we go with this, you know, because this is during the daytime. Can we get a bit of this, you know, There we go. That's what I wanted. Something like this, yeah? Bit of quick downward brush strokes running down the back like that. And feathering it in so that it just sort of goes into the ground and not too obviously messes with the reflections and all that. I want to blend this a bit more here. Just want to blend this back into the car and also add some more darkness to the left side of the car, perhaps. Okay. Now, a bit extra gouache. I'm just going to put some final highlights to bring this all together. Some final little highlights. I also thinking that there's a lack of really sort of dark spots in here. It's making me just want to just drop in some real dark bits in places to balance out the scene more. Like this, for example, could be a person like wearing a suit or something like that. Yeah. But again, I don't want it to... I want it to blend into the... See? Blend into the reflection like that. Like that. Really darker, sort of sharp sort of color. You know, the wheels. I wasn't able to get the wheels in for these cars super well. I would have... If I do that again, I would have gone darker. You know, the legs of this figure here. What else do we have? Maybe some hair and stuff like that you can just put onto some of these figures. Okay. Just some extra dark, some really dark colors I think would help. I could just leave it as it is though, you know, no biggie. Nope. About this person here, bit of darkness for that figure in the background. Just because. Okay. All right. I think I might call this a day. I'm going to give this a quick dry. Okay, a few little dabs of gouache, of white gouache, to just finish this off once and for all, to just bring out a little highlight here or there. So we can drop in a bit here on top of that figure. What else do we have? A bit of on the shoulder like that. Just kind of touch on the painting, touch into areas that you want to bring out those really sharp contrasts, okay, that you might have missed out on before, like some figures, or you know, this figure here. I could just drop in a bit of white on, see the right hand side, you know, there, the shoulder shoulders of that figure here. I've gone a bit overboard there, but you get the idea. Just a quick little thing like that. You can recover some of the white of the paper by doing this, bringing back a touch of contrast into the scene. You know, I also do it sometimes in parts of the buildings, like just drop in a bit of white to bring a little sparkle into the scene. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a simple little rainy day scene, and we've tackled a few different topics here. I've gone through how to paint light, a strong light source. I've gone through how to paint wet into wet reflections, figures, cars, but how to join up your entire painting so that it's cohesive, having, you know, joining the top of the painting with all the shadows down to the reflections. Okay, letting everything blend together. A loose little scene like this, and it doesn't take too long at all. I think how long have we been painting today? I think I've been painting for even more than an hour, or probably less than an hour. I have to check, but that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I want to get some feedback from you as well. If you're still watching as well, do me a big favor and click the like button on the video and share it with a friend. Share it on a watercolor group online. That really helps me out to get my videos to more people. It doesn't cost you a cent. And, you know, for me, the more people watching, the better. Saves me from having to market and send this out. I find that's one of the most annoying things to do when I'm running these shows. If you enjoy these workshops as well, check out my Patreon. It's in the video description, and you can sign up. Basically, it's $2 to support me a month to continue running these. You get stencils, so you can also trace the reference photos. I do have 2 other tiers that you can sign up for, which gives you access to some of my premium courses. In the last year, you can get access to all my premium courses. I also have a 70 course program, so go ahead and check that one out under the video description or in the pinned comment in the chats. I think I've got it in the chats as well on YouTube. But I'm going to hang around for a bit. I want to hear what you guys think. I can still see that there's about 15 of you here, so let me know how you went today. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions as well. Cubs Wins saying, if you wanted to lighten the tail light reflections, how would you do that? Tail light reflections of the red, you mean? Yeah, I'd probably mix in. It's kind of tricky. Like, I've seen people just use almost the pure color straight onto the page. Yeah, I've just used a more, I guess, like a diluted down version of the red. Sometimes you can add in a bit of gouache there as well. As you can see there, the gouache really helps to lighten it up. But I find if you mix white gouache with the red, it just turns it pink, so it doesn't quite work with the red. So you kind of just have to use a more concentrated version of your red. And I like to mix in a bit of more vibrant orange as well in there, because once it dries, as you can see, it dulls down a little bit. Okay. All right. I wonder if, I wonder how everyone's doing. Just having a look, waiting to see if there's any more questions, guys, because I'm just about ready to finish this off. Yeah, this was an interesting scene. I've never painted this one before. Yeah, I've never painted this one before, but I think it went all right. I think it actually went all right. Oh, there's a couple of comments here. Nina, thanks, Nina. Don't think I've seen you before in this in my lives, but yeah, let me know. Let me know if you have been here before. Sandy, thanks, Sandy, and I will catch you next time. JT Tom, Thank you, JT. It's really good to see that had a decent amount of people, people turn up today as well. You know, it's really gives me motivation to keep doing what I'm doing, guys. So yeah, without further ado, I think I'll finish things off. If you're watching afterwards, leave a comment below if you have questions. I'll do my best to get back to you. But for now, take care, have a good night or good morning if you're just woken up, and I will see you